Hey, Roger.
Yes.
This is Lisa from California. I wanted to give an update on an incident or an occurrence that happened Friday. So, my husband and I, we were traveling home, and there was a sobriety checkpoint. So, everybody's in line, waiting to come to the officer that's on the side of the road for him to ask the travelers for their driver's license, car registration, and insurance. So when they get to my car, my husband is driving, they ask for those three items, and I say, we do not have a driver's license, but here is our passport card, which you had suggested that people get as a form of ID. So when we handed it over to the officer, and these are sheriffs, by the way, they escorted us off to an out of sight area because we didn't comply with providing our driver's license. Once we get over to the side of the road, and again, it's out of sight, and it's this big operation. I can tell you there's probably over 300 officers on the side of the road, and they have the paddy wagons, and they were going to make a ton of money that night.
Is this in California?
This is in California.
Okay.
So when we get escorted off to the side of the road, another officer comes to the window and says, "I need your driver's license." I said, "We do not have one. Here is our passport card." So then I hand him my affidavit, my one paragraph affidavit out of the club compartment that I keep, showing where I'm a national. He then takes the paper, goes back to his car, does whatever he does, calls. He's probably gone for about 15 minutes. He comes back. He's a little confused. He talks about some code he saw. He didn't explain what it is. He just said he never saw it before. Now, because the environment was a little hostile, I didn't go into, well, what is it that you see? Don't you see? I didn't go into all that. I just said, okay. He said, "Are
Was it
you one of the?"
D? Was it DND?
He didn't say. He was just confused.
Okay.
So, like I said, because of the environment, we were off to the side. It was at night after 8 o'clock. I didn't want to get into, like,
I
uh, I
understand
didn't want
totally.
to, I didn't want to extend the encounter longer than it needed to be. So he says, he comes back, like I said, confused. He throws out some kind of code. I don't remember exactly what he said. He said, "Are you one of those sovereign citizens?" I
Oh boy.
I said, "Absolutely not." I said, "We are nationals." I said, "If you look at the affidavit, we are nationals." And I said, "And by the way, your sheriff's department has been noticed." I said, "The police department has been noticed, and the attorney general has been noticed." I said, and then so he gives back the passport card, and he says, "Well, you have to have a driver's license in order to drive in California." I said, "That's not true, but we're not going to go into all that right here and now." And then, if you wouldn't have had whatever, if this wouldn't have been or legit, we would have took your car, and it was going to go into another direction. So I chose to be quiet. But I believe that if we would have said we didn't know the difference between a sovereign citizen and a national, they could have arrested us, because it was like they were fishing. They didn't see any of our information. I believe that because he didn't know where we were from, other than the notarized paperwork has the city in which I am from. Because I noticed, because of where I travel, I noticed three different cities. I did, or counties rather. I did San Diego County, I did Riverside County, and Los Angeles County, just because those are the areas that I frequent. And I
Right.
didn't want to, run into any problems like a previous caller I had heard on the phone about her traveling into an area, and then nobody was noticed.
That
So
was
he
Judy. Yeah.
Yes. So he gave back the passport card and said, "Have a good evening." We didn't have to show a driver's license. We didn't have to show a car registration, and we did not have to show
Well,
our driver's registration
Lisa,
or insurance.
if I could get my arms around, I'd give you a big hug and a kiss. Okay.
And it's only because of you, Roger. It's only because of you. You said know the information. Know the information. And so I want to thank you again for all the hard work you do. And it's catching on, because after that, I go online to try to figure out. because I know someone, or there may be rumors going around saying that the Supreme Court passed a law in January telling people they didn't have to have a driver's license. So I went looking for it, and I ran across this site that does an apologetic piece on, and they use the word sovereign citizen. So right there, I know that they're trying to entrap people into thinking what we're doing is what that is, but they're using the same point that we use to argue for our national status. So I thought that was interesting. So they are going about trying to cover up this information and get people confused with those two terms. So thank you very much for,
And let me tell you what, if you'd have been a David Straight or an Anna Von Wright student, you wouldn't have gotten through that like that.
Absolutely. I agree. Absolutely. Because like I said,
and what the code was that he came back to you with is DND. Do you know what that means?
Do not detain.
Correct.
Yes.
And that we've seen some videos around where this has been applied and worked, but it's the first time with our circle here on our show that somebody's gone through this experience with a personal testimony, and it's clear that what he came back, I've never seen that do not detain code before. You know what? That's the same thing that officer in Florida said in that video that was floating around. I've never seen this pop up before. And
they were mad. I mean, he was actually mad that he wasn't able to force his authority.
That's correct. That's correct, because they think they rule like Boss Hogg, and they don't.
Yeah, absolutely. So
and I want to congratulate you. I want to tell you how thankful I am you followed through, learned the information. All you new people out there, you listen to this, okay? The information's where your freedom is. It's where your confidence comes from. It's where your re-empowerment comes from. It's the source of all the freedom is learning the information.
Absolutely.
And thank you for having the huevos to stand up for your rights.
Yes, and Paul, you'll want to clip that out, and we'll make another testimonial clip out of that.
I have a question for Lisa also. Do you have private plates on your car or state plates?
I have state plates because my car is not paid off, so I do not have private plates. I have the standard driver's plates.
Okay, so what does this incident tell us in relation to the idea that if you've got state plates on your car, the state owns the car? If that idea that's floated around our community for many years, okay, this proves that that's not accurate. See, as I've told y'all, the only way we really get concrete answers is when people press the envelope. Lisa, not of her own choice and volition, pressed the envelope, but we're getting answers. See? One of the toughest states in the country in a situation like this, California, with a bunch of damn wackos out there. And this is what happens. I've never seen that code before. You should get a driver's license, but here's your passport, and you can go on about your way. Just like Sarah with the CPS situation in Colorado, comes out, okay, you're free to leave. You hear that, Ron Avery? Okay, these are real life examples. They're not ego bullshit with somebody that wants to egotistical themselves and show how bright and how much they know. This is real life stuff here, folks. This is people's lives. Okay. This isn't theory. It's been proven for 12 years. Not once has any paperwork that's ever been submitted to the Secretary of State, no matter what format it's in, been rebutted or refused.
I think this is like that line in the movie War Games. The only winning move is not to play. Of course, they're talking about war, but in our case, the only winning move is not to enter their system at all.
You don't think we're in war?
Well, yes, we're in war, but the only winning move is to just
not play. The Bible says, "Come out of her, my people, come out of her." That's what we do.
It was cute that they had the computer play tic-tac-toe.
Yeah.
No winning.
Well, I think that a lot of what RA, and I'm not even going to justify him by using his whole name, is going to come up. He's going to like cite instances where people that did not understand the system tried to use some outside the system means of beating them in court and wound up being jailed. That is essentially what he said.
Well, that's exactly what he said on the show. He said, "Well, my friend fought the IRS, and 10 years later they seized his house." Okay, Ron. Well, don't look any deeper than that for any answers, okay?
Right. You don't have any possible idea that your friend might not have had his ducks in a row in the beginning?
No, it couldn't have been. He's my friend. All my friends are as brilliant as I am.
And he's been listening to me for years.
Yeah,
How
right.
could he possibly have gone wrong?
That was his problem right there. So anyway, Lisa, thank you for what you went through. I'm just so proud of you and your husband, and thank you for bringing that to us. Okay.
You are so welcome. Thank you.
Roger?
Roger, I have
Yes.
a question.
All right. Well, the female's going to go first around here, so hold it for a second. Go ahead.
Hi, Roger. Just real quick before, I have a question for Lisa before we move on. Lisa, thank you so much for sharing your testimony. I just submitted my affidavit earlier, the beginning of this month, and I'm doing the notifications now, and I too agree with you what Roger has done, with pioneering the way for this freedom for us at the top level is just amazing. And can you elaborate any on your notification process? Just any tips you can give of what you did on what that looks like. Because I'm doing that now. I would love to know something a little bit more on that. Thank you.
Well, Lisa, what did you do? But the notification process, I mean, this whole process, the way we do it, is very simple, folks. It's really good. You know why? Because the trap they've got us in is very simple. It's the fact that they have had to hide it and used all these really sophisticated methods. That's where the confusion is. What we're doing is simple, okay? It was a bait and switch. They set up a secondary subservient status. They've tricked us all into agreeing with them putting us into it en masse with fraud. And the reason they've got to recognize this is otherwise they're tyrants, and they've got to recognize it legally and lawfully because fraud vitiates any contract ab initio. And yeah, you think they're lawless. See, people think they're they're not lawless. They've got laws that they operate within, folks. I know you find it hard to believe if you haven't internalized this, but they do. And by far, the most part, they work within those limits. Not always. By and far, the most part, and anytime they deviate, I believe their justification is that they've got you in this situation where they got a property right on
you. Roger, may I?
Yes.
If I may add, adding on to what you're saying, I would just suggest keeping, like Roger said, everything simple. If I had pulled out a 3, 4, 5-page affidavit, it would have did more harm than good. It was a paragraph. It's the paragraph that Roger points you to. It no more, no less. And I only noticed the key people: the sheriff, the police department in the area, and then the attorney general.
Yeah, I hope you did the DA too, because the DA is very important.
Oh, yes.
And
I'm sorry.
There's one more. There's one more that we've put on lately because Brendan of your state of Washington up there that tried to pass a law last year to mandate vaccines. And so now we also add in that list of people to notice the local public health official.
I apologize. Yes, those I did all the key people. So the DA and the health officials. I actually even did the coroner. So I did the standard of everybody that you guys recommended. So I didn't deviate away from what you suggested on your matrix.
Right, Lisa. Well, yeah. You're a wonderful student, and the proof that you've spent the time doing what your payment to me is to learn that information.
Absolutely. And it's a godsend because I do not think that this information could have come any other way other than God having his hand on the man and woman who is sharing this information, who figured it out, and who is willing to share it for free. Okay. Because there's a lot of people out there who are asking for money. And I know because I was down that path before I found Roger for free. Okay. He's not hiding anything. He's not trying to solicit anything where he's going to make some get rich quick scheme. It's for free. And I've only been on here for a year. So it doesn't take, like a 2-year master's program or anything like that. I learned this information in about 3 months, and I acted on it once I got my head around the concepts that he's teaching.
Right.
Awesome, Lisa. And Gwendolyn, everything's on the Matrix Docs and on the Telegram group. We just keep it simple.
Merc, I want to tell Lisa besitos, okay?
And we don't ask for anything for the information. The only thing that we ask for is help supporting the platform and supporting the message. And just because this takes hardware. It takes hardware. It takes people's time. It takes bandwidth, server licenses that need to be taken care of, need to be handled. This is a very expensive thing. And we try to do it in as prudent a manner as possible. However, if you do wish to support this message, you can go to GiveSendGo/Radio Ranch Support. And you can help us out with the hardware and the expenses on the back end. But the information is free.
Thank God for Paul English that we don't have any front end costs here. I mean, negligible, folks. I was in radio. It costs $500,000 to put up a short tower, on a high frequency band, a damn daytime radio station. Minimum, $500,000. We do this on a shoestring, folks. Thank you, Paul English, and thank you, Paul Meaner, for coming in. Thank you for pressing on the Sarah Westall video and joining us and adding all of the technical pizzazz and the things that Paul knows how to do that have allowed us to enlarge as we've gotten some spurts here, Yeah. So it's just, and to the girl, whoever was saying that.
I'm sitting here looking at 3 different monitors.
I could go back decades and show you how God has had his hand in this message. Mm-hmm. Just the fact that I lived through that accident in Argentina to tell you this today is a work of God in itself, because I shouldn't have lived through that accident. I'll be the first to tell you. Okay. And just for those of you who don't know, hadn't heard that story before, I was told that a picture of the car I was driving, a rental car, a little bitty dingbat little car like they got down here, I had on a big truck full of potatoes and lived through it. 6 other people didn't. Okay. I was told that a picture of that car was in every newspaper in the country of Argentina above the fold with this headline: "It's a miracle this guy's alive."
What kind of car was it? Because I think I should get one.
It's some little Chevrolet thing. I totaled it, and I should have died that day, folks. I'm not kidding you. Mm-hmm. And the first things that came to my mind when I opened my eyes, the impact had made me pop my jaw, and I had all kinds of enamel from the bottoms of my teeth in my mouth. It's like you got sand in your mouth, And the first thing that came to my mind was that I shouldn't have lived through this. Obviously, God has more work for me to do. That's why we're here today.
Thank you, Raj.
No, thank him. Thank him.
Thank you, God.
That's me.
Can I give you guys an example of